Warning: the following is extremely addictive content. The original Savage podcast may cause increased levels of success, happiness, and completely transform your life. You've been warned. Welcome back, everybody. It is another crazy episode of the original Savage podcast. I have my man today, Aaron, and I can't even get that crazy fired up because I know what's going to happen. I got to save my energy today. Y'all know normally I come out of the gate like super high energy, but I don't know if I can. I got to save my energy because it's about to be that one. So without further ado, Aaron, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, tell us all about yourself and, kind of your background, and then we'll jump in.
Awesome, Josh. Well, thank you again for having me on here. Anytime I get a chance to just share value, I'm jumping all over it. And here's another one, right? So let's have some fun. My name's Aaron Hairston. I'm a former professional athlete, engineer, dad, husband, and someone who loves giving value. Over the last 10 years, I've learned so much, Josh, in my life that has helped me to really, really identify my purpose and my gift. And what I found is that I love caring for people more than they care about themselves until they care about themselves as much as I do. I've done a lot of training. I've done a lot of development on myself to really realize how powerful we can be when we become intentional. I had a devastating injury back in 2007 that, ended my career in football. And I thought I was just going to go all the way to the NFL Hall of Fame, right? And do what I thought physically was my purpose. But, God had a different idea. And I'm glad he did, because I call it now the greatest thing that never happened. I was able to really focus on what really matters. And it wasn't about me anymore. And then as an athlete, that's really all it has to be, is about you. And so I'm super grateful. In 2009, I had my wife and I had our first son, Elijah. You can see him right there in my helmet. He was a preemie, super tiny, sat in my helmet, sleep in my helmet, which is crazy. And then we had our second one in 2014. Caleb. And so it's just been an amazing journey, man. And I just love giving value and really understanding how to listen first and see how my experiences can shift and make an impact, man.
Perfect. So, that whole picture can go two ways. Either he was really small or you got a big head. Which one is
it? Both.
Hey, we can't let you just come on here and not take shots at you a little bit, man.
I stole from Jason Witten, man. Jason Witten, I don't know if you remember, but he had a Cowboys helmet, the same setup in his living room. I think it was on like 30-30 or some sort of. Yeah, actually, no, it was Cribs, MTV Cribs. I saw that, and he was probably that size for about a week. And we quickly rushed in. My brother-in-law is a photographer. We grabbed my helmet, put him inside it, and he fell asleep like a little baby, all nice and comfy in my helmet. And it was just a great shot, man. So I'm grateful for that moment.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect. So let's just jump right into it, because I know that you're going to bring all kinds of value and all kinds of insight for us. What I ask everybody kind of every week to jump off the podcast is kind of the same thing. And so it's really just, in your opinion and through your experiences as an athlete, as a coach, and all these different things, both coaching athletics as well as coaching, business, is, in your opinion, what is that one thing that it really takes for somebody to take their performance to the next level and really get that lasting change? What I've been saying a lot lately is to go from the plateau to the peak, right? What is that one thing that you, in your opinion, think has to happen for somebody to be able to really, really make that change and elevate their performance?
It starts with a quote. I'm a huge John Maxwell fan. And in John Maxwell's book, Limitless, he said, everything in success is uphill all the time. You must internalize that. You must know, right, that all things in success are uphill all the time. And once you understand that, you can embrace resistance. Matter of fact, I was just having a conversation with a good friend of mine who we talk, each and every day and just check in. And we talked a little bit about this. And I know that when I start feeling resistance, when I start feeling that pressure, I know that I'm moving in the right direction. When that pressure starts to lessen, I know either one, I need to pick it up a little bit, or two, this is just a timeout. Okay. And we get unlimited timeouts in life. But I think the first thing, Josh, to your question is really recognizing the fact that if you want to be and be more and become more and do more and really perform at the highest level, you got to realize that you're going to be climbing the whole way, right? There's no break in the action here in regards to success. And then the second thing is really what resources are going to be required for you to be able to sustain that amount of effort and attitude and consistency. I think through life you learn certain lessons, and the biggest lesson is, who are you? How are you built? And what gifts and talents were you given to begin with? And focusing on your strengths and really identifying what really brings joy in your heart. Like for me, Josh, it's it does it does sometimes it's hard to put in words, but it is considered work. Every day that I step out and do things is considered work. I'm collecting information, I'm giving information, I'm performing. However, it's different types of work because it's joyful, right? I'm getting my payment before I even initiate it, right? Just by my intentions of doing it. So that comes from a different place. So then you're performing at a high level, not because of what others expect of you, but because of what you have committed to yourself. So I think in a nutshell, that's where the foundation starts. And then obviously you just start to learn and grow and fail forward, man.
I got so much out of that piece, and want to go in several directions at once from that. But one of the things that I think, and I talk about it all the time, is perspective, right? And for me, when you said that quote, it's always uphill, or always a climb. And for me, like, I've actually said it. I don't remember if it was the last episode or maybe 2 episodes ago. When you're climbing, there's ups and downs. Like sometimes you have to go down to climb up. Like in actual mountain climbing, sometimes you have to go down. So for me, it's my perspective is um, that more stock market look, where there's some peaks and some valleys and some peaks and some valleys and some peaks and some
Mhm.
valleys. It is an upward direction, but I think about some of that. You hit a spot, you come down a little bit. You hit a spot, you come down a little bit. But then also, it made me think of. I just watched the Trevor Bauer podcast that came out on Theo Vaughn, or Theo Vaughn's podcast on Trevor Bauer. And like Trevor Bauer, not like Trevor Bauer, he's obviously an exceptional athlete. And there's some circumstances around him some people don't like, but he said on there that even when he won his Cy Young, he didn't enjoy it because he was already thinking about his next goal. By the
Mhm.
time he actually got it, like, because you know how, like, hanging banners for Super Bowls or whatever, right? So
Yeah.
you get voted for it at the end of the year, but you don't receive the plaque until midway through the next year. By the
Right.
time he got the plaque, he had already moved on to a new goal. And that's exactly what you're saying. It's like, hey, never being satisfied, always grinding, learning, whatever it might be. To really elevate yourself, you have to understand that there's no party. There's never a party. It's always onward and upward. And of course, there's those dips. And again, the way that I see it, my perspective, there's those dips. You know what I mean? And that's what I think is so cool about it. And that's why I love doing podcasts, because everybody sees it a little bit differently.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I want to go back to that. So there has to be some gratitude and recognition, though, right? You have to recognize the fact of the small wins that you've had, because we all need reinforcement, right? In order to continue the behavior, right? In order to continue the behavior in an upward trajectory, right? So that in order for you to continue to grow, right, you're going to be lifting, right? However, you still have to celebrate, but don't celebrate too long. Just take out of the celebration what you need to refill your tank. And we all have capacities. Okay. There's certain buckets that have to be full in order to go forward, right? The first one is your emotional capacity, right? Our emotions were never intended to be, the captain of the ship. Our emotions don't have a lot of logic, right? They just have feeling, right? And in that moment, we really aren't thinking, right? We're just feeling. And so how much can how much can we handle in our emotional capacity? The second one, our physical, right? If we're not healthy, We're not going to have energy, right? So we're not going to be able to perform. We're not going to be able to think clear, right? There's going to be a fog. We're not going to be able to imagine, right? Because we're going to be tired. So again, what is your physical capacity, right? Are you taking care of yourself? So you got emotional, you got physical, then you got your mental capacity, right? You start thinking about the things that you know and the things you believe and thought process that comes along and being able to work on the fly. Like you said, if you're climbing and your foot slips, which will happen, right? You have to react. And so your mental capacity needs to be sharp, but it also needs to be full. And so in those breaks and those celebratory moments, you have to refill the bucket. Okay, put your oxygen mask on, get some oxygen. Even the highest performing athletes on the sidelines after a long run, during the celebration, high fives and stuff, they put an oxygen mask on. They're getting refilled so they can go back out and perform. And so I definitely want to make sure that it's clear that in the peaks and valleys that we have higher lows and lower highs, and we make sure to fill our bucket so that our next threshold is higher than the last one. Let's not just grind and grind and grind to our own, to our own death, right? Let's continue to grind and grow, grind and grow. And so instead of setting goals, what I've adopted lately is really being more growth oriented, right? And so learning and growing and developing so that my capacity far exceeds what is needed at the time.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. I was going more in the context of what Trevor Bauer was saying, and maybe I got caught up in the wording of that. But I think for Trevor Bauer, it's more of the individual wins he celebrates on his own because he's such an intense competitor
Right.
that, like, once he wins, he internalizes, good, I did my job, awesome, good job, move on,
Right.
next
Next.
one, right?
Oh, next.
Right.
That's professional. Yeah. Yep.
Right. That's what it is not, don't be happy about, winning. Don't be
Because
happy about you
yeah, Josh, like
achieving.
people literally do. I can't. It's never enough, and that's a relationship thing. That's a self care thing. And a lot of successful people, if you talk to them, outside of the limelight, you can see that they are definitely just running and burning the candle at both ends and never refilling it. And although we may see it as huge success and achievement, inside they're empty and they're still chasing,
Mhm.
and that's a dangerous place to be.
No, I 100% agree with that for sure. And that's one of the things too that you do have to. It's about really being honest with yourself though, and understanding
Yeah.
yourself of who are you and what is important to you. Somebody like yourself or like me, I would never put myself in a situation where I had to spend all of baseball season away from my kids. Super important for me to coach my kids in baseball, and be there for their games and things like that. I would never put myself in that situation. Of course, there are people out there, and no offense to them, that listen, they want to be at work all the time. It's important for them to get their career where their career needs to be. Blah 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 blah. All of those things. It's important to be honest with yourself and know what is important to
Amen.
you so that you know what success looks like for you when you get there. And going back to as well to what you said about goals, setting goals. I'm not a huge goal setter. I'm a big believer in like the organic journey. And if you've seen any of my old podcasts, I used to talk about it all the time. The
Mm,
organic journey of like just going, achieving, and then when something happens, you make the decision one way or the other on, okay, cool, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this. It's about I'm going to do this. No time, there's not a timeline on it because
right.
if you're growing and humans are an incredible, species. If you're growing, what you set a goal for in a year from now, if you didn't set that goal for a year, if you just said I'm going to do this,
Mhm.
most of the time by the end of that year, you're going to be so far past the goal you set.
Right. It's gonna be totally
I
different.
don't
It's
Yeah.
it'll look nothing like what it initially set out to be. Right.
Yeah, it's this, self-limiting beliefs are talked about a lot, right?
Hmm.
And I think that a lot of the times when we set goals, we're limiting our beliefs. It's, man, this is a really hard goal I've set. It's going to be super hard to do this in this time
Right.
frame. Gosh, it's going to be so hard. You make yourself not be able to achieve it, except for right at the last moment, you might be able to get there. Oh,
Right.
right, because you trained yourself to think that.
Mm.
And so let's switch gears just a little bit. I want to hear from you because obviously I'm a big believer that athletics and business translate extremely well. Obviously, my last three guests now have kind of all been in the sports world, but I want to hear from you. How do you think that growing up, spending so much time in the athletic world, kind of shifted and you were able to succeed in the business world, going from, again, like you said, an injury, and it's like, oh my gosh, I've got to shift, right? You had to do it because of the injury, but how do you think athletics played a role, and what are like kind of the similarities of achieving in athletics and achieving in business?
It begins with the challenge, right? I think playing a game and being coached properly. I had some really amazing coaches all through youth sports, all the way up, and coaches that really believed in the work, right? And it's a lot different than it is today, right? You don't see a lot of coaches handing out punishment. You don't see a lot of coaches leading with accountability, right? I mean, yes, the good ones you do see, but the majority of the way things were then and now, it's a lot different. And so for me, looking at the coaching that I had, yes, they did teach us the game, but they taught us a lot of principles in regards to how to work together, with someone that you just met, how to execute a plan, how to properly prepare. I remember sitting at the table in my kitchen and going over the signals, with my dad, who was a coach, and going over the signals for the defense for the game before, right? So the preparation, the mental game, off and out of the office, right? We weren't on the field, we were at home. It's 9 o'clock at night before bed, whatever, and we're going over signals because we got a game in the morning and want to make sure we got it right. So those little things like that really has helped me to realize that there's a lot more to the game than just to play. If you want to play at a high level, there's a lot more to it. And it's the same thing in life. But I think the difference with me is I went through a lot and I was often injured and I was recovering a lot, and when you go through those types of things, you start to ask yourself, how bad do I want this? And when you overcome, right, you find that you have the emotional capacity to withstand all the all the garbage that goes on in our heads that just wants to protect us, right? So that insane brain that just says, hey, it's okay, relax, don't play no more, it's dangerous, or hey, this hurts too much, you're hurt, you can't play, and you go through those things and you start to realize that what, we're a lot tougher than we think we are. And after that last injury, it was really hard. I mean, I couldn't watch football, Josh, for like 10 years, bro. Like
Mm.
literally, I could not be a fan of the game. Never mind, like wear a jersey. Like people wearing jerseys to games. I was like, I just couldn't do it. I just really,
Right.
it just brought up memories of the end that I didn't, that I didn't plan, right? But then once I got over myself and I got out of my own way and I allowed myself to become something other than a football player, I realized that a lot of what I learned in athletics um, is really what you learn as being a human being in anything that you do, right? There's always a game. And Simon Sinek says it perfectly. He says there's two types of game. There's finite and there's infinite. The finite game, yeah, it has a score, it has a time limit to it, but those aren't the games that we want to play often. We want to play the infinite game. We want to play the game that keeps us playing. And how do we do that? Well, by being growth oriented, by feeling good because we're making progress, by feeling good, by executing a plan, being properly prepared, and wanting to be there. And for me, I just look back at all those times. I'm like, wow, I'm so grateful for those moments. At the time, it hurt, but now looking back, I'm thankful, I'm grateful, and now I live like, hey, why go to the grave with a body that's still perfect, man? Use it up, bang it up, and see what it can do.
Man, I seriously, seriously think that a lot of the disconnect is not being able to mesh with all types of people. That's where a lot of people are failing these days. That's where some businesses are failing. They
Mm,
can't adapt with the change in the times. Um, and again, I talk about it in the perspective aspect of, people are different. You can't treat everybody the same way. Like from a leadership standpoint, from a from a sales standpoint, prospects and marketing, this, that, and the other. You can't treat everybody the same way because they're not the same. Look around. I mean, people are crazy,
Right.
but
Right.
I think that's the number one thing that you kind of learn in sports is listen, you can't choose your team a lot of times. You get put on a team and there's however many, depending on the sport you're playing, 54, 27, 11 in basketball a lot of times. You can't choose who's on your team. You got to learn to get along, compete, and win. And hey, your strength is this, my strength is this. We got to figure
Yep.
out a way to make it work to achieve the goals. And I
Yep.
think that gets lost a lot of the time, and not just the obvious answers of work hard and you'll achieve, right? Not those things, but honestly, I think the people skills
Yeah.
is what, especially the more that we go into AI, machine learning, and
Yeah.
social media, and where it's this talking to a camera. And I know how funny it is that I'm online right now, but it's still people skills, being able to talk to people, being able to put things in perspective, work together, understand strengths and weaknesses.
Right.
That's what I think is really missing, but can be translated between the two so much is that exact thing.
Yeah. It's amazing you said that because I coach fourth grade basketball, and each day we practice, I have a little meeting in the beginning. We talk about what we're going to review, and then I always like to ask the question, what did we do good? What did we do that we need to, what did we didn't do? What we did do? What could we work on? And one of the things that the kids said is the kids were, in agreement with is that there's a lot of solo players and not enough together players, right? And not enough teammates. And some kids choosing to pass to some kids and not passing to other kids, right? And so you bring up a really great point. That's where it starts to begin, um, that's when the process starts to begin of being a team player. And so when you start understanding that, you can't play football by yourself, right? Without this guy, there's no that. There's not this guy, there's no that. Like everything is complementary. And then you start to say, oh wow. As you grow older, right, those things start to kind of come into a different type of light, whether it be in the workforce or maybe even your family, right? You start,
Yeah.
dating and things like that. You start meeting people and start to have to listen and to work together and to compromise. And yeah, you're definitely right. And there's been a huge disconnect. And, people like to blame COVID. They like to blame, social distancing, things like that, which definitely didn't help. But we were already working in that direction.
Yeah.
And, I put the Lord in the middle of everything I do. And, I've been praying a lot lately and just asking for clarity in regards to how do we get back to going to each other's houses and being okay to ring the doorbell on surprise and just saying, hey, I'm here, let's hang out, come on in. And that whole welcoming, because if you think about the way the world was at that time, there was a lot more collaboration. There was a lot more, there was a lot more togetherness. And I think you can only build a relationship belly to belly, man. Like we do a lot of stuff online and it makes it convenient, but this is only the first stage. Eventually you want to be able to be with that person and break bread and start to do the things that we used to do. And so I see AI and technology as just something that begins the process of expanding beyond our boundaries. Because when we were younger, right, we can only go to our neighbor's house, right? You go to,
Yeah.
you go on your bike, whatever. But I think you bring up a really good point. With sports, it always brought the community in the neighborhood together. And then if you start to grow older and you start to get more competitive and things like that, you start to find really where your role is and what you play in. And then in life the same thing, but the same rules apply, right? You got to understand the game, learn the game, be coachable, right? Say less, listen, and then execute and be your best. Give your effort to the best of your ability. And if you mess up at 100%. Like just go all in. Don't hesitate or don't doubt. But again, it's a big problem right now. I think a lot of kids not being held accountable for mistakes. I hear parents sometimes tell a kid a good job and they didn't do a good job. Like, I'd rather you not say anything than tell them good job. Like good job is good job. There's no fake good job. Like it doesn't make sense, And so when the kid doesn't do something good or does do something bad, I'm sorry, does something good or does something not so good, they don't know the difference in what to focus on, right? So they just do, and I think it happens all the way up into the workforce where leaders are having a challenge trying to figure out who these people are when they don't even know who they are.
That is like the perfect story out of a follow up of like a video that I'm recording, and it's this perspective. And if you really want to unlock your true potential and your actual peak performance, you have to understand perspective. And in that video, I talk about something that they talk about in golf all the time, which is feel versus real, right?
Mm,
Feel is not real. And it's a big thing in golf. If you look it up, there will be hours and hours of video and articles on feel versus real. And it's, in my opinion, what it is internal versus external perception and perspective. So it's how do I feel when I'm making this thing? How do I feel when I am swinging the golf club? How do I feel when I'm shooting the basketball, swinging a baseball, throwing a football? How do I feel?
right,
But when you try to get better, especially in athletics, what a lot of us do, we record ourselves
right,
so we can see our form.
right.
Well, guess what?
You can't.
A video camera don't lie. That tells us the real. It's what we feel. We feel we're doing this. But that video camera tells us the real. Or the results tell us the real. If I go outside and I shoot 100 shots and I feel like I'm not doing something right, but I make all 100 shots, I'm probably going to keep doing that not right thing because I made 100 shots in a row. That is my real. The feedback is the real, right?
Right.
And just like you said, the accountability, and people don't know who they are, right? Oh gosh, there's so much in what you just said that I want to unpack. It's like people not wanting to come over to your house, or people don't come over to each other's houses anymore because we're so worried about how they're going to see us. If they come in and and the kids got toys everywhere and the house looks like it's a wreck, oh my gosh, they're going to think we're slobs, right? That's what people think
Yeah,
immediately. It's like,
exactly.
hey, guess what? If they got kids, they're going to understand. It's not a big deal, right? It's this perception of I'm gonna feel this way. But that's what the problem is I'm gonna feel this way. If they come in my house and it's a mess, I'm gonna feel like I'm a slob.
Right.
They're probably not gonna care.
No idea what they're thinking. Right. You assume, but you have no idea.
Right. It's internal versus external perception. And in performance, it's so important to align those things. But guess what? It's not just sports performance, it's performance in your career, in your life. Everything is the same way. It's you're so worried about yourself and
Right.
how you feel
Right.
about what you think. I actually heard this from it wasn't said to me, it was said to somebody else. I'm not going to name names because it's a private conversation that they have with a therapist, but they had this problem.
Hmm.
They felt like if they did this, people were going to judge them or this, that, and the other. And the therapist said to them, you are so self centered that you think everybody is looking at you in a room when you walk in the room.
Wow.
And this person is somebody that sees themselves as not being self-centered, sees themselves as being like in a corner and shy and not, yet they're so self-centered to think everybody else is looking at them and judging them.
No
And it's like none of those people even know you're here.
one even cares like that.
And you're stopping yourself from performing or enjoying something because you're so worried about the external perception. And again, it's aligning those two things. If you feel like all eyes are on you, then you have to align who you are inside and say, I don't care if all eyes are on me,
Right.
or do care
Right.
and change how, the appearance is, whatever. You have to align those two to make performance happen in sales, in marketing, in leadership, you know, in athletics, in life, neighbors coming over, all of these things. It is so, so important to understand that your internal and your external are two different
Totally. Absolutely. Totally. And you know what? It's it's a new world, and I believe that we have enough information, okay, to fix it and to move forward. And it's people like us, Josh, it's people that are willing to step out and share their experiences, share their stories, and really not look at expectation anymore. Because I think that's where we start to assume and that's where we start to feel these false things, right? These things that, slow us down or stop us from doing what it really is that we've been designed to do and really stepping into our gift. So um, there is a lot of hope there. And I was listening to a video the other day that really kind of caught my eye. And the guy was talking about how do you drive this younger workforce, right? And I have my perception about it. I think for me, it's about understanding who they are, right? Because you know that they're coming from a place that maybe they don't. They're still living in expectation. They're still living through whoever told them to do something and they're just executing it. But really, if you stop them for a minute and said, "What are you doing?" Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, that's the answer they would say. Right? They have no idea, right? But and once you give them direction, boom, they get after it. But then when you start to ask them, well, you know what, just be creative, go with the flow. They're like, I don't really understand that. And so getting to know who they are will help you and give you the information you need to lead them. And then, I can dive into some of the things that I do as a workshop. But what this guy was saying on the video, what he was saying was there's three kind of like industrial phases or phases of the world, right? He said there was an industrial phase where, it was survival, right? So people didn't really care about how they were treated. They didn't really care about what they did for work. All they cared about was, can I make enough money to feed my family? Right? It was just survive, put some clothes on my back, live in whatever conditions that would keep me out of the elements, right? And so that was one phase. People would do whatever it took. And then there was a second information phase, right? That was when the internet hit. Now there was all this information and people could be online, right? So now it was the information age and it was the significance and the lifestyle, right? Look at me, look at me, look at me, right? I can show you what I got. I can fake it if I want. I can make things up. And so now at this time, as it's kind of like this, just giving information and feeling good and this and status. And so now that has passed. Now where are we now? Well, this guy said it was the age of quality of life. So, what does that mean? Well, that's different for everyone. And so sometimes what we think is significant to some is not. And so you see, well, hey, well, why are you not motivated? I give out gift cards for recognition, or I give you, an extra day off, or, I add some money to your check, or I don't add money to your check, right? All those things mean different things to people, right? Because it's the quality of life that they're looking for. And it really hit home for me when I was thinking about that. I said, man, that's right on. Because if you think about the younger generation, like they've learned through all of those things, bits and pieces of it. And now you can make money doing anything. There really isn't a perfect path. It's literally, okay, well, what do I want to do and have a lot of fun doing it? Like that's really it. And then you literally can make a living out of it. And so now it's like, okay, well, let's focus on quality of life then. And so older leaders, right, are coming from maybe the industrial age or maybe the information age, they're still stuck on, what they have always done. And it was more about the job and the role in the company than it was the people. Now they're wondering why retention is hard to get. Well, this is the thing, right? You're not understanding your people and what actually they are and who they are and what drives them. Okay. Humans have drivers, humans have things that move them in a direction even when they don't want to do it. It just moves them. It's natural movement. And that's the job of the leader, is to identify that. Right. And so slow down to speed up, slow down and understand. Okay. But really, that principle of understanding that people are more interested in the quality of life than the lifestyle and the making the money, because again, there's no status to that anymore. It's not as valuable as it used to be. Right. People make millions of dollars and you would never even know. Right. But if they're happy, that's attractive. You know what I'm saying? If they're enjoying their moments in life, that's attractive. Right. If they're around and doing things that they want to be doing, that's attractive. Right. So people start asking, well, what do you do for a living? Or what do you do for work? Because that's attractive. It's not how much money you make, because that's no longer, that's no longer a thing. I mean, yeah, money's great, but it's a compliment, and it's always been. But we've put it in different areas and different, different roles. But I think that's where we're at, Josh. And for being able to lead others in this day and age, the 20 somethings and younger, I think it really comes down to the quality of life and finding out really what makes them happy and what they are going to wake up every day, no matter if they're paid or not, to do. And if you can align with that, then they'll walk to the end of the earth with you.
100%. It's about the alignment of understanding, how you see yourself, how others you see you, but also the reverse. If you're going to be a great leader, you have to understand how they see themselves
Yeah.
and how you see them. You have to understand that there's four alignments or four perspectives that have to be aligned in an instance, in an interaction or a transaction, to make it perform optimally. It's how you see yourself, how others see you, how that other person sees themselves, and how they see you. Right? There's 4 views in each one of these,
Totally.
interactions. So to be a really true leader, especially now when there's such a diversity in generations, I mean, you can just they talk about it everywhere. Everywhere talks about it right now, right? Like
Oh yeah.
from the baby boomers to the 80s and 90s kids to now the even just now the 2000s to
Whatever
the
generation we in now.
yeah, and then yeah, I mean it's such a it used to be like you'd have a full generation of like 30 or 40 years and they'd all be similar. Now it's like every 10 years it's something new, right?
Yeah.
And that quality of life is absolutely what everybody's aiming for. And COVID obviously advanced it even further because the people started saying, "Hey, I'm not going to come into the office. This remote thing works
Change the
really
game.
well. I need to do this." It makes it and it really made a lot of people change their views on work and money and
Yeah.
status and those things. It just advanced what we were already kind of working to, like what you said. But quality of life is also a slippery slope because a lot of people are falling victim to the done for you situation.
Mm.
And like you said, people don't know who they really are, and that costs them performance, of course. But I think they don't know who they are because they haven't had to do anything. You can go to the drive-through, they cook it for you. You can order on DoorDash, they shop for you.
Nothing to get
You
everything.
can everything's done for you. Scroll through Facebook right now. If you watch this, if you're watching this episode, more than likely you're some sort of interested in business. Scroll through Facebook. How many ads do you see that says, "We will build a such and such business for you, an Amazon business for you, a faceless YouTube, a faceless Instagram. We'll do it for you.
Yeah.
We'll build you a business and you don't even have to do anything." Right?
Yeah.
Done for you. No one's had they're not having to do anything. They're chasing this quality of life, which is great. I'm 100% for it. I'm all about the remote work, all about spending time with family. 100% quality of life. It's just a slippery slope because people are falling prey to wanting it done for them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you bring up a really good point. And I think for me, I'll be 47 in August. For me, it's a little different. I won't fall into that bucket because there was times in my life that if it didn't get done, it didn't get done. You didn't get anything out of it, right? And nowadays, like you said, you have tools and resources. You click a button and it does it. And so there's quite a bit of enabling and numbing. Um, so again, going back to leadership and going back to influence, right? Because really all leadership is influence, right? So going back to influence, it's it's getting out there these type of messages. People want to hear the truth. People want to understand perspective, and they also want permission to be themselves because of the judgmental situations that exist online, right? And people, being very uh, you know scared to be vulnerable, scared to put themselves out there. um, that's what ends up happening, and people start to say, oh well, I can't be that way. I can't just be myself. I have to be what others expect me to be. And so by us doing things like this and sharing perspective and also sharing permission, listen, if you're watching this and you have that uncertainty in your gut that you can't be the way you want to be and be yourself, then let this be your permission too. Because really it matters that you be you, because again, you are the only one that can be you. You can act like someone else, but that will only go so far. And once that message is said, then we also have to hold people accountable. But we have to do it in a way that will reinforce the behavior that we are looking for. It's just like parenting. Parenting is very difficult. And for those who are parents, they understand that, yes, everything literally is brand new. Even if you thought that you dealt with it before, it's brand new. And at that moment, there's a lesson for both you and the child. There's a lesson there. And if you're aware of it, then you can, one, set on some accountability and expectation, and then also reinforce. You can do that. Okay. And it's such a beautiful thing, but it's not easy. It's simple, but it's not easy. And we need to leverage these type of platforms to be able to continue to share the truth with people and tell them it's okay. Okay, it's okay. Listen, I'll be the first one to say, let's go, and you don't do it, give you push-ups. Absolutely. You know what I mean? Like, we're gonna do these, you don't get these push-ups in. But at the same time, guess what I'm doing? I'm using the opportunity to strengthen you. Right. So even though you may see it as punishment, you may see it as um, something that you need to correct, but yeah, but you find these opportunities to take advantage to bring something better out of it. But we got a lot of work to do, Josh. We really do. And that's why right now I believe that what is out there in regards to inspiration, motivation, leadership, and helping people be more mindful of the people that are working with them and for them is going to help them to understand the perspective that needs to shift so that they can really lead in a way that's going to motivate their people to go forward.
No, I'm right on board with that. I definitely think that it's one of those things that, like you said, people are conformist at this point. A lot of the times, because of social media, people have gotten scared to speak
Yeah.
their truth and their perspective. Um, and it does. We're not talking about anything political. Even obviously, that's even crazier. We're just talking about saying any word. People are so scared that somebody's going to get offended by it. Somebody's going to have an issue with it, and it's going to be this. But and I'm all for understanding. Listen, I'm not saying get out there and just put crazy stuff on social media. I'm saying, you know, understanding that you are a brand. You as a person, yes, you as a person, you are a brand. 100%. So I'm not telling you to go out there and just cause a ruckus to cause a ruckus.
Right.
However, it ties back to what we talked about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing who you are. If you
Mm-hmm.
have identified who you are and you know that you are this person, if you're lost, listen, let's do some work. Let's find you. Let's get you to who you are, understanding who you are. Then we can work on the perceptions of this podcast is a damn training episode if I've ever seen one. Good gracious. We're going to find out who you are first, right?
Well,
Then we can work on, yeah. Then we can work on, the perspectives of your perspective and somebody else's and how they see you and getting them to see you the way that you see yourself. But once you've done that, you can't let others push you back into that I'm lost stage. You have to be true to who you are because people, especially now, seek out genuine humans. They're
right.
seeking out other genuine humans. They want to feel that. And I was in a call with somebody one day, and they said, you know, when you know something about yourself, it doesn't matter how qualified or how qualified you're not, what
Mm-hmm.
other people think, what people have told you. When you know something about yourself, and someone else asks you about it, or someone else, what's that connection like, or what's that conversation like? And it's like there isn't a conversation. They just already know because you know.
Right.
There's not even words that have to be said when
Hmm.
you truly know who you are and you truly believe that this is my perspective of myself. This is who I am, no matter what anybody says.
Right.
It's instant. People know it without you even having to communicate it because it just
It's a,
emanates.
it's a glow. It literally is an energy that can be felt. And that right there is that glow going back to the last dragon, right? You know what I mean? Like, show enough. Like, this is what it is. And going back to COVID and things like that, like, all that did really was shake the snow globe. What we thought was real wasn't. And all of a sudden, we got creative again. We started figuring things out again. We became human again, right? We were running on autopilot for way too long. And, the Lord says, stop. I need to stop.
Yeah.
Like, the only way I'm going to do it is got to stop you guys to make you guys realize that you guys are missing a lot, going too fast, to slow down, right? And it's this great time to live right now. It really is. There's so much opportunity. There's so much abundance That's the key word that I really want people to feel coming off of this call, coming out of any type of leadership message that you may get, receive, feel good about. Like it's the abundance, man. There is an abundance waiting for you. It's already inside of you, right? Break those chains. Let go of that self-limiting doubt. Let go of someone's expectation of you. Like, let go of that, right? It hurts. I get it. There was moments where it was abusive, so much so that it damaged your belief in yourself. And okay, feel that. Let it go, though. Let it go, right? You don't have to hold on to that anymore. You've been through it. You've experienced it. You got out of it what you needed to get out of it. Now let it go and build on it. That's rock solid. And then realize that the abundance that this world has in store for you is unlimited. It's all there, right? And all that you need is just like that walnut seed. It's got the whole tree inside of there, man. It's got the whole tree. There's nothing else that it needs internally. It's there. You put water, you put dirt, you surround it in darkness, and guess what happens? It grows, and it will grow and grow and grow with no limit. What do we do as humans? We have the same built and makeup, but we stop ourselves from growing because of our environment. A tree will grow right and bust right through the freaking ceiling if you put a tree in a house. It don't care about walls. It don't know. It just has information to go and grow. So let's understand this. Let's be responsible gardeners, okay? With the garden that we've been given and the seeds that we were given at birth. We were given greatness. Plant those seeds, grow them. And again, you know what? We may have all bamboos, right? And bamboos take like 6 years to grow before they even break the ground. And all that root is growing and down there to have something that grows 90 feet in 6 weeks after that, right? And so maybe we're not seeing the results we want. And we may think that, we're cursed or there's some generational whatever on top. No, none of that's real. It isn't. It's made up. And the abundance is here. It is for us for the taking. And it's about being creative and being humans. But most importantly, like we're sharing here, it's about being together as one, man. People are powerful. And when you can value people, then you'll treat them valuable. But we have to start by valuing others because we cannot give what we don't have already. And if we don't feel value, then guess what? We're not going to give value. And that abundance, to Josh, that's what it's about, man. And keeping these kids really on that path to say, hey, listen, it's out there, man. Go and get it. You don't got to step on anybody. Put yourself in the dirt, grow, develop, be nourished by all the information, all the challenges, all the obstacles, all the things that are going to come its way, all the storms that will happen. But here's one lesson. Bend, don't break. You may lose some branches on the way. Bend, don't break. Keep working. And then next thing you know, someone's climbing your tree, building a tree house in it, having fun, using the abundance and the breadcrumbs that you're leaving behind because you decided to grow.
Man, I'm about to put that thing on loop. I wish I had a loop button and I could just keep playing that and not have to talk anymore. That right there, man. Woo! Talk about getting somebody fired up. But so much of that is I'm gonna go plant reference first, and then I'm gonna talk about what you just said. But you talk about the different plants and stuff, and it's like, hey, well, you know what? What if you're a peanut plant, or what if you're a carrot plant, or what if you're, it might be in the dirt. Your beauty might be in the dirt. It might be opposite.
Potato never sees sunlight.
Right? Never sees the sunlight. It's down below. Somebody looks at the top like, that ain't worth nothing. Dig it up. Guess what? It's worth something. Right? When there was an entire nation starving, guess what got them through? Potatoes. That's right? The potato famine. Look at potatoes, right? It grows in the dirt. And it keeps growing in the dirt. You can pick one off, put it back, and it'll keep going. You never see it, though, unless you get down in the dirt and find it. And yes, I just made that up. I never read that anywhere. So guess what? It don't matter. You get inspiration. You are the inspiration that made that come out of me. You know what I'm saying? Listening to things like this happen. They grow you. They make you better. And what you just said, too, about there's no reason to step on others, right? You don't have to step on others. This is not a killer bee eating society anymore. It's not. Everybody can share in the wealth. It's redirecting the wealth. Like, it doesn't matter. The blue chip families are still going to be the blue chip families, but there's so much money to go around because even they're having to spread their wealth out because it's not one person anymore. There's
Right.
67 branches on the tree at this point. They've got to spread it out. So it all gets spread out now. It's not one person spending that money. It's 120 people spending that money now. So
Mhm.
it's getting redistributed because their branches are spreading out. But it's the same thing, like athletically, what you just said, make people around you better. I've had that conversation with my son so many times. His favorite sport is baseball, and it's obviously a team game where you have to be a teammate because
Yep.
it's just baseball, right? But in basketball, he tends to be a ball hog.
Mm.
And I'm like, listen, if you're going to run point, if you're going to be the point guard, if you're going to beg for the ball, you got to make everybody else around you better.
Right.
If you're going down the court and shooting every time, unless you're making every shot, you're not making your team better. If you're going down the court every time and turning the ball over, you're not making your team better because you just gave the ball right back to them, or you're just shooting to shoot and you're missing. If you don't pass the ball to a wide open person, you don't know if they were going to miss it or make it. But guess what? If you did miss it, then we know you missed it. There's no mystery. We saw you miss it. Now, I'm not saying he misses every shot, but again, it's that lesson of others, right? And going into that, we've talked about the self-limiting beliefs.
Hmm.
I think one of the most overlooked things that nobody really talks about is others and allowing other people's perspectives to limit your beliefs. Because guess what? Until it's been done, everybody thinks it's impossible. Until it's been done, of course they're going to say you're crazy because they don't know. They have no idea what's in your head. They don't know what dream is going on up here. They can't see it. So don't go to others for validation because they're not going to ever be able to validate you because they don't know. They're not inside of your head. They can't see the same thing that you see. So that I think is something that's so overlooked. And even I've talked about self-limiting beliefs a lot. And it's one of those things that I'm super passionate about and talking about because, it's definitely a big thing. But
Yeah.
what we don't talk about is relying on others and having others hold us back. It's kind of the opposite, right? Of the lesson with my son. And it's letting others pull you back because they don't believe it the same way you believe it. But guess what? They've got dreams. They have dreams too. I don't know what their dreams are. They don't know what my dreams are. I don't know what they're fully capable of until I talk to them and draw it out of them.
Right.
That's what we have to fix is stop telling people their dreams can't come true. Stop telling people they can't achieve. If you've got a neighbor across the street and you see him out playing basketball every day or you see him throwing the baseball every day, tell him that he can do it. Stop pulling people down. We've got to get out of this you can't do it mentality for others, not for ourselves necessarily, but for others. Whether you're being told that, okay, you're being told that, push it back. Don't listen to them
Mhm.
because they don't understand. But if you're telling people that, stop and go and help them achieve that goal. Because what you're going to get out of that is so much more rewarding. And that's why I love teaching and coaching because seeing some kid, like obviously you said you coach basketball. My thing is baseball more and I've coached since my son was 3.
Hmm.
Seeing that kid that can't hit a ball at the beginning of the season and at the end of the season, the joy that's on his face when he hits a ball, nothing can replace that. Taking somebody that's struggling, and we all get caught up in it because we want efficiency in business. We all get caught up in it. But everybody will tell you the number one thing that costs businesses the most money is turnover. Hiring and training is the most expensive thing. We're all quick to say that person can't cut it, get rid of them, we'll hire another one. But what if we took the time to change that person's performance and get that person's performance to par or even excel by understanding and stop telling them that they are not it? How much of a difference would that make?
Huge difference. Again, going back to the value part, we must see value. We must see value. When we start seeing value, we take care of it, right? Take care of it. We'll take care of each other once we start valuing each other. In leadership, in relationships, no matter what, right? You must see value. You have to care, but it has to start with ourselves. You can't give what you don't have. So if you don't love yourself, if you don't value yourself, if you don't see that your seed, right, is worth what it's worth, then you won't appreciate any of the plant. Nothing will matter because you will just assume because of your worthlessness, they are too. And it's just a paradigm shift. That's all it is. It's just believing that everyone is valuable. And then once you believe that, you'll start asking better questions. You'll start being intentional about discovering who people are. You
Ooh,
know,
discovery.
yeah,
Oh,
right?
oh.
Set aside the results. Set aside that happens as a result, right? As a result. What happens precursor to that is understanding, right? The clear understanding and communication and the investigating and the development of the understanding. Like that's where all the meat and potatoes lie. Okay? That's where all the content lies. Because within someone's life, you find experience. Through those experiences, you find the golden nuggets. You find what drives that individual. And if you're listening, you'll know how to work together. And when you know how to work together, results always as result. They always as result. Good, bad, or indifferent, it doesn't matter, but it has to start with value from within. And that's the part, Josh, that we must work on every single day. Man, I got to sell myself every day to myself, sell myself to myself. And I put it right into God's hands. I let go of my significance as soon as I wake up. And that practice has helped me to not be responsible for the mistakes that I make, but be responsible for the effort that I give. And the first thing I seek is where can I give value? Where can I give value? All day long, give value, give value, give value, give value. Listen, I know value returns, right? But a closed fist can't give nor receive. So if I start like this, right? Trying to get value is not going to work. But if I give, look what happens. I am open and willing. So I let go. I let go of my significance first thing in the morning. I say, Lord, thank you so much for waking me up today. I may be tired. I may not be. I may be looking forward to something that I expect to happen, but I let go of it. And I say, you know, Lord, prepare me for the amazing day that I'm going to see, because there will never be a day like today ever again. Today is the only thing that matters right now. Okay. And when I do that and I internalize that, what happens is I let go of all of the expectation of the outside world grabbing from me. They're going to get the best of me regardless. How much do you cost? I have no clue. You probably can't afford me. But guess what? That's not what I'm doing it for. I'm doing it because the value I give, right? The value I give allows me to be able to get value. But it starts with myself. But that had, that had to be a journey. You know what I mean? And you take those moments. And it took me 40. I don't know when the light bulb went off. You know what I mean? It just did. But when it did, it clicked. And again, it's a journey every day. I have to continue to learn. You know, what's Tony Robbins say? Kanai, constant and never ending, learning, right? There's something you have to commit to. And I wrote this on LinkedIn, right? I started contributing to some articles and stuff like that. And one of the articles said about learning new skills, right? And it's such a powerful thing. You know, some people that was contributing, it was like, yeah, learn new skills, find out what the job wants, and you start new skills. And you know what? I go back to a quote that I heard from John Maxwell. That's my man. Now, listen, John, if you get a hold of this podcast, I sent you an invite to be on my podcast because I was inspired by your John Wooden, interview. And John Maxwell is one of my greatest mentors. He doesn't even know it, but I'm sure he knows it because all he does is give value. But anyways, he goes and he says that we always grow older, but we don't always grow better. Growing better is not. It's not going to happen without effort, right? Growing older will. It just happened. Time will fly, and no one has control of time. However, everyone has control of better. And so that has to be your first commitment to yourself is I need to continue to learn and ask myself these 4 questions. Who did I help today? Who did I make smile today? Who did I make laugh today? And what do I learn? That's going to make sure that my day is intentional because I can answer those 4 questions. I do it with my children every day. I ask them those questions because just saying how your day is that day. Tell me a story. I need to know a story. I need to know like what happened today, right? This day's gone. It will never be here again. Let's talk about stories, right? Ask those 4 questions. And so going back to your message, Josh, or your question in regards to how do we get back to together, right? How do we get back to valuing people? It starts with valuing yourself and then seeing value in others, seeing value, assuming value. This person right here, I have no clue who they are, but I know they got some value. I know that person is special, right? That's somebody's child. If you got to go to the roots of it, that's somebody's child. Or somebody loved that child, changed that child, like took care of that child. That person is valuable. And then let it just grow from there. And we'll be in a better place. But it's going to take time. But again, these type of platforms, sharing these messages, it's powerful, man.
Yeah. I mean, it goes back even further too, is understanding who you are so that
Yeah.
you can share it with others. So you understand the value, like you said in the very beginning, understanding the value that you can give to others and giving value so that you can get value, so that you can receive value. And it's like I literally had a call today for interviewing a guest to come on this podcast coming up, and just an introductory call. We had never spoken before, so we were just kind of talking. And he was like, "What do you get out of the podcast? Like, what are you doing it for?" And I was like, "To be honest with you, first off, it's selfish. I absolutely love doing it because I get to learn each and every day from other people. Like,
Right.
do I like doing it for, the platform of having people hear what I have to say in my opinion? Yes, absolutely. But first and foremost, it is because I love the conversation. In very few circumstances do I get 3 professional athletes in a row, and I literally just interviewed an ex NFL guy. Now I've got you on here, play professional football. I have another NFL guy lined up to come on board. Like I'm working on getting some even bigger ones, bigger names and things like that coming on board. And in talks with that, like no other place would I be able to have these conversations back to back to back to back. I mean, I guess if I like snuck into like the Las Vegas stadium or something this week, I could, but like they ain't letting me in.
Yeah,
I'd
yeah,
have to sneak in, you know what I'm saying?
yeah,
But
yeah.
it's understanding your value so that you can get that value. And again, I probably don't belong in the room with some of the guys as far as if you just looked at me on paper and said, "Who is this guy?" Or you looked at my LinkedIn and it doesn't say what I do. Uh, if you looked at it, you're like, "Why are these people talking to him?" Because I do understand my value. I know that what I do is give perspective in a different way than other people are or can. And I also know that I'm the country bumpkin that's pretty decent at telling some stories. I've got the stories and I can tell a story, and that's what people love. That's why music is so powerful because it tells a story a lot of the time. And what you said too is earlier you were saying you don't know when your light bulb went off for you in that. And as
Mm-mm.
you were saying that, for me, honestly, it wasn't a light bulb moment. There was a moment here that got wired to this moment over here, that then got wired to this moment over here. I had to have the whole circuit board built. There was little moments here and there that built the circuit board for
Right,
me to then understand the value that I can bring, the value that I can give and that gift that I do have to communicate with people of all different types
right,
of for the athletes, for the CEOs, to the, super tech minded academics. I can break things down and see them in a different way. And that's the gift of mine. But 10 years ago, did I know that? No, I knew certain parts, but I
mm,
didn't know the whole thing. I've been getting the circuit board built. There was never a light bulb for me. It was the circuit board.
That's powerful, man. And you know what? And you hit it on the head, dude. That's exactly what it is. That's really what it is. It's never one moment. It's a collaboration of multiple moments, that create that. So thank you for bringing that clarity, man, because I think for a lot of people, we think it has to be one thing. It has to be one experience, it has to be one word or one phrase or something. But again, whoever we were when something happened was exactly where we were supposed to be. And sometimes we understand it and sometimes we don't. But then as it accumulates, like you said, it's just powerful. So thank you, man. That's powerful, man.
I think it's going back to that discovery, right? Like that discovery
Right.
of who you are and the value
Yeah.
and stuff. But man, I cannot thank you enough for jumping on here today and sharing all this. Man, we could go for 2.5, 3 hours, I'm sure. But man, I just thank you so much. Why don't you shout out all your stuff again, your social media, website, and all that good stuff, and just let everybody know who you are one more time.
I appreciate that, Josh. Yeah, man. Check me out at aaronhairston.com. That's AARONHAIRSTON.com. You can check me out on all socials: TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. I'm super excited. Josh, thank you so much for having me on here. Let's go. Original Savage, Savage Mind. I love it. And I'm looking forward to being back on here soon, man. So I appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, listeners. We're coming back at you next week with another absolute banger of an episode, guys. It's only going to get bigger and better from here, and I can't wait for you guys to hear the next one. So stay tuned and let's go.